Hi and welcome to this week's Life Lessons video. It's great to be back with you all. Are you a highly sensitive person? Well, if so, did you know you have 3 amazing superpowers? In this video, we're going to be explaining why your superpower qualities are your greatest strength and asset, but if used incorrectly, they can also be your greatest weakness. So we're going to be showing you how you can identify your superpowers and use them as a force for good in your life. Welcome to our Wu Wei Wisdom Life Lessons series. In each episode, we answer your questions, reveal the powerful life lesson, and offer you lots of practical tips and advice to help you live in balance, harmony, and flow. So David, you work with highly sensitive people every day, and I would say, would you say most of your clients are highly sensitive people?
I would think so. I think sensitivity, as we always say in these videos, is one of your greatest assets, and you called it a superpower.
Yeah.
I love that thing. It's your superpower. It's really what helps you to be unique, and all the things that we're going to talk about today, if you can use them in balance.
Yeah, great. So I think you've been working with highly sensitive people over 40 years. And
I know I don't look that old, do I?
Yeah. And they come to you struggling with a range of emotional health issues that you help them with. And I know that over this 40-year period, you've identified these 3 things in common that all these beautiful, highly sensitive people have in common. And you describe it as like them having a Ferrari, but because they're not aware of how to use it, this Ferrari being their superpowers, it's like they're living their life driving around in first gear. They're not maxing out and using these qualities to the best of their abilities to benefit them and everyone around them. So to begin with then, David, what are these superpower qualities? We're all dying to know.
Well, the first one is your sensitivity. And before we do this, remember in a lot of videos we talk about this emotional pendulum.
Yeah.
The yin and the yang of an energy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not in control, what happens is you swing out of balance and you go into one of the extremes. And then because you can't hold the extreme, in almost like a blink of an eye, you will swing to the opposite extreme. So working with clients, I often wondered, is there anything in common here? And I found 3, what I used to call characteristics that my clients have in common. And the first one, of course, is sensitivity. And have you ever really learned how to deal with your sensitivity? And so this is what I notice.
Yeah.
Sensitivity can swing one way out of balance. Now, these are the clients who it seems like you're walking on eggshells. If you say the wrong thing, they'll burst into tears. They quickly use words like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm fragile. Yeah. People don't realize how sensitive.
I'm absorbing all the negative energy of people.
It is like a kind of a fragile thing that can be easily broken. And what they're trying to do is to kind of get the external world to, treat them differently, treat them with extra care, be really, really careful with them, be their emotional carers. This is what I often say to my clients. Do you want people to be your emotional carer? And they want
to. Is this when you talk about also they want to be wrapped up in cotton wool? They want to be protected from bad things happening in the world. They can't cope with bad things happening in the world because they say, I'm too emotionally sensitive.
Well, they're in the extreme of the sensitivity, and they've built up this illusion, this image in their mind that somehow they're a fragile little shell that can be broken at any opportunity. And that's one end of the extreme. And then in a blink of an eye, these clients can swing right to the other extreme. And I always think about my grandma when I'm doing this. She was a very sensitive lady, but she could kill you at 10 paces. She would fold her eyes and look at you, and one look from her and you know what she meant. And so they can swing from one side to the other, and they can put up a mask. And this mask is, I'm tough, keep away from me, stay 10 paces away. They'll push people away. They'll be what I would call hard-nosed. Have you heard that expression? Hard-nosed. Really like they don't want to go into their sensitivity at all. They see sensitivity as a weakness, and they want to fight against that weakness. Have you ever met that type of person?
Yeah. So they're very hard-nosed, quite aggressive. A lot of people would say, oh, they're just an angry person.
Prickly, very prickly.
Yeah. Very short and
very
sharp.
Short, and you can't get close to them. And if you get close to them, they'll push you away. But if you think about it, these are the two extremes, the yin and the yang of the emotional pendulum. Because what we're trying to show you in these life lessons videos and in our Facebook group, that if you bring that into Wu Wei, into the center, into the balance, this is your greatest strength. This is your superpower. The superpower is not in the extreme. The superpower is not in the two extremes, because if you go into one extreme, what inevitably happens is you swing immediately into the other, and your life is swinging backwards and forwards, and you can't grasp that center Wu Wei.
Would you say this is why people experience mood swings?
Absolutely.
And I think we're going to do a video in the future just on mood swings, but this idea of, some people say, oh yeah, I'm definitely highly sensitive, very kind of fragile, very overwhelmed all the time. Or someone can be very aggressive, very hard-nosed, very yangy all the time. But a lot of people, as you say, swing, and that's mood swings, between one and the other.
I kind of like the word we just came up with, prickly. They can be very prickly.
Like prickly pears.
They can be very prickly, because if you say the wrong, they can be this very sensitive person, very demure, very scared. If you say the wrong word, they immediately become very prickly and push you back. And I notice this with the clients when you're working with them, they can swing from one to the other. And what happens here, and if this is you, if you identify anything, what I'm just saying about sensitivity, it's very difficult for you to grasp any of these two extremes. So you almost get lost in this pendulum, these mood swings. You don't know where you are. And so when something happens, it's very difficult for you to be in control of this energy because of this swinging pendulum.
And I would say that you don't know where you are, and I guess your friends and family also don't know how to handle you. So this may not be you, but you may be able to think of a family member, a partner, a friend who suffers from this, and it's almost like, how do you handle them? Exactly. What's going on? 1 minute they're like this, next minute they're like that.
I'm laughing because I know somebody like this. You never knew what you was going to meet.
Yeah.
You was never quite sure. And really, this is what this video is about. Because if you can identify this, and the first step is to do what we're doing. Remember what I always say: you cannot change what you don't understand. So as you're listening to this may not apply to you, it may apply to you, but just think about it, this swinging pendulum where you go from one extreme to the other. Because remember, you're missing the strength. The strength is the Wu Wei, is that little bit that Alex said a couple of videos ago, that riddle room.
Oh, that sweet spot.
That sweet, exactly. That sweet spot where your sensitivity is appropriate, where you can sensitively deal with any situation. A lot of my clients will say to me, David, it's very difficult for me to deal with real life because I'm sensitive. And I'm always perplexed, because if you're a sensitive person, doesn't that mean you can deal with things in a sensitive way?
And I would say...
That's no weakness.
I mean, the beautiful qualities of that energy of sensitivity and balance are compassion and being intuitive, kind of being empathetic.
Being flexible. That riddle room.
So
that movement. So you can sensitively be aware of things. You can be aware of yourself. You're sensitively aware of energy. You can find the Wu Wei balance. And this is what I would suggest you do. You must try and find that Wu Wei balance, that flow, that sweet spot. that effortless effort that we talk about, because then you'll be using sensitivity to its greatest power, the superpower. And then you'll be driving, as Alex said, the Ferrari all through the gears. Because if you've got a Ferrari, it's right you should drive it in first gear at some times, but you've got an overdrive, and to be able to move through the gears in a sensitive way. And that's what we want to do with sensitivities, to be able to use it correctly, to the best of your ability, to use that awesomeness, that unique sensitivity that you've got, that no one else in the universe has got your unique sensibility. And using that sensibility in Wu Wei is your greatest superpower.
So are you saying then, if we are in the, well, first of all, to just let me get this right, that the three, the yin, the yang, and the Wu Wei, and those three sets of different characteristics of being are all part of that one energy of that superpower energy of sensitivity. Yeah. And if we are either in the yin, which is the overwhelm, the crying, being fragile, people having to walk on eggshells around you, or if we're in the yang, the aggression, prickly, snippy, short with people, wanting to be hard-nosed, that those are the two times there when we're driving our Ferrari superpower only in first gear.
Exactly. Or reverse.
or reverse. Or if we're swinging between the two, we're probably in reverse.
Yeah.
That's the reverse. Because you're almost like getting the worst of both ends of the spectrum, both ends of the energy.
You're abusing your superpower. Stop it.
Yeah.
This is your greatest asset. It means that sensitively you can deal with any situation at home, family, work, your health, your well-being, your career. Everything you can deal with it in a sensitive way. Sensitivity does not mean weakness. Let me repeat that. Sensitivity does not mean weakness. You are not weak if you're sensitive. You have a fantastic, immense power. Use it correctly. Use it in balance. Use it that every situation, every reality that you encounter, every event, every person, you can deal with it with sensitivity. Because sensitivity is almost a kind of a quiet assurance, a quiet inner knowing. Do you know what I mean? You've got that inside of you. If you're sensitive, you know intuitively what's right or wrong. Speak up for what you know. Speak your truth. Live with integrity. Connect to that sensitivity in balance.
And I think what you said about connecting to your sensitivity and not abusing it, I think some people, well, most people would say, well, I didn't realise that's how it worked, so therefore I didn't realise I was abusing it. So it's more a case of we're operating on a default because no one has ever taught us how to use that superpower sensitively correctly. And we'll come on to that, how to kind of transform from the swinging or the extremes to bringing things into the harmonious Wu Wei.
Well, the first step, really, is what we're doing here is understanding it, is knowledge, is just knowing it. Being aware of it, because you can't change what you don't understand. So if you ever wonder, because that swinging pendulum can be very powerful, and it's almost like it's leading you can't control it. And many of my clients will say that they can't control it, but you can control it because you're doing it. You are the master. And once you understand it, and I'm not saying you'll do it on first go, you won't get it right, but as long as you keep on practicing, you will be simply amazed how quickly you can bring it into balance, how quickly you can bring the two extremes into that little pendulum, just moving nice and gently. So whatever you meet, you can deal with authentically, truthfully, honestly, with integrity, with your great integrity. Remember, never lie to yourself and do not lie to other people. Because when you go out of balance with these swinging extreme pendulums, you are not being authentic, truthful, and you are lying to yourself because you are not a prickly person. You are not a short-tempered person, and you're not some fragile little doll that was going to be broken at any opportunity. Use your superpower correctly in the right way. Then you see your life change. Because the important thing about these three things, they connect directly to the law of attraction. So then now you'll start be living your life in a sensitive, caring, flowing, authentic, all of the words that we talk about in Wu Wei. You'll be attracting that energy into your life without effort. You don't even have to try, because that's who you are.
So are you saying that if we can learn how to control, and we're not talking, because there's a bit of a misunderstanding. We've done another fantastic teaching video on the highly sensitive person, what is it, and what happens, and I will put a link above to that. But we had some feedback on that video where people misunderstood, and they thought we were saying, you've got to change who you are to survive being a highly sensitive person, and we're not saying that. No. So when we say control, it's about sensitively and compassionately bringing that energetic quality that you have back into the balance. So it's not changing it, it's not manipulating, it's not rejecting it and trying to be inauthentic and someone who you're not. It's about learning to control in a compassionate and mindful way to bring it back into a balance. And I think that's really important, because we're not saying change who you are, we're just saying be the best of who you are in Wu Wei.
I'm actually saying that when you're in the extremes, you're not who you are. You're not a prickly or a doll or a porcelain doll. You're not those two extremes. Those are the two extremes. Could bring it back into the center. Now, does this take effort? Yes, it does. But you're worth it, aren't you? You're awesome. So work on yourself. You don't even have to tell anybody else you're doing it. Just be mindful of that self-talk, that inner child, that self-critic, whatever you want to call it. And over the next few days, just find that balance and keep on bringing yourself into that balance. So when you do hit difficult situations, which you will, in reality, life doesn't always work out smoothly. You can deal with it authentically and sensitively. You can deal with it showing people who you really are. Remember, sensitivity does not mean weakness. Sensitivity does not mean you're a doormat. Sensitivity does not mean that you get bullied. Sensitivity do not mean that you allow people to walk all over you and get their own way. Sensitivity is a very strong quality. It means you can dispense your strength in a sensitive way. Something's just come into my head. I remember one of the Taoist masters saying, it's like an iron fist in a velvet glove. It's that sensitivity, but underneath it's that strength.
So it's like a self-assurance about who you are, a kind of unwavering self-assurance about who you are, your intuition, your compassion, your empathy, and knowing that this is a force for good in your life, and knowing how to deliver it, and almost to stay away from those two extremes. So if anyone, I was just going to say, I know our audience and you watching at home, you're probably a highly sensitive person. So if you can recognize any of the three positions, the two extremes, the swinging and the experience of being in that balanced Wu Wei zone, please comment below and share your experiences. So David, you said awareness, first to be aware, first to understand. So that in translated into reality, that means if you meet a challenge in life, whether it's a challenging person, an unfamiliar, unexpected situation which is challenging, become aware of when your emotional energy shifts to one of the two extremes.
Because it's almost like it's programmed. It's almost like it's set on default.
Well, that's because we've never known any different.
Exactly. And you've been doing it since a child. And maybe you've even learnt it from one of your parents. So if you're one of these people that swing to the extreme or get stuck in one of the extremes, just sit down quietly after this video and think, was my mum like that? Was my dad like that? Was my grandma like that? Where did I learn this from? Where did I get this information from? And this is what Wu Wei, and we call it the life lessons. It's a lesson. You won't get it right. It's like you're learning a new language. I don't expect you to learn a language in one go. You keep on practicing. But remember, you're sensitive. So do it with sensitivity. Treat yourself with sensitivity. Be kinder to yourself, because this is, again, one thing I find with a lot of my clients who call themselves sensitive, guess who they are not sensitive with? themselves. They are harsh. They are unforgiving. They are worse than prickly. They beat themselves up. They criticize themselves. They compare themselves. They're judgmental about themselves. And this is what we call CCJ. Comparing, criticizing, being judgmental. Sensitive people will fall into this trap. It's like a trap door, and you'll fall into this trap as easy as that. And you will be highly critical of yourself. You will be unmerciful about yourself. You will be the first to beat yourself up. You'll be the first to say, well, if I was only as good as them, look at them, they're doing better than me. Why haven't I got this car? Why haven't I got this boyfriend? Why haven't I got this job? You're beating yourself up. And you're a sensitive person. You're in the extreme. You've gone to the extreme. You've gone to this criticizing, harsh, prickly, unforgiving, judgmental person. That's not who you are. That's not even sensitivity. Bring it back into sensitivity. You're not perfect. You will make mistakes. Learn from your mistakes. That's why we call this series of videos, I think we've done about 20 of these, life lessons. They're here to teach you. Learn the lesson, because if you do not learn the lesson, do you know the only one that's going to suffer? You. You're the only one that's going to suffer. No one else suffers. This is like taking poison and expecting somebody else to feel it. Only you feel it. When you're beating yourself up, when you're CCJing yourself, do you think anybody else cares? Do you think anybody else is going to change their point of view for you? I know this sounds harsh, but it doesn't work. It's never worked. It's never going to work. You've got to stop it. Stop it now and come back into your superpower. Treat yourself with kindness, sensitivity, truth, honesty, integrity, all the things we talked about. And that brings you into the center. Mm-hmm.
And I think, David, what you said a while ago was, this almost re-educating yourself emotionally of how to deal with the superpower of sensitivity. It does involve work at first, yes, but then it gets easier. But actually doing all the other stuff, as you said, CCJ, being harsh on yourself, then swinging to the other extreme and then feeling really rubbish about yourself, like you want to hide away. And everybody's talking about me.
Everyone's against me. The universe is against me.
That kind of swinging between the two extremes takes so much emotional energy, saps you of any joy and happiness, and saps you of time and your creativity, everything. So actually it's harder work being the extremes, swinging between the extremes.
I'm constantly amazed, because when I explain this to my clients, I did it yesterday to a gentleman. We were on video call. I explained this very thing, and he says, yes, David, but this is easier going to this one. It's not easier. How could this be easier? What it is, it's familiar. You're used to it. It's your comfort blanket, and you know it. You swing from one to the other. But as Alex just explained, this is a waste of your energy. This is draining you. But more importantly, do not forget the law of attraction, because when you're doing this, swinging from one to the other, that's the energy that you're attracting in your life. You're attracting extremes into your life, extreme people, extreme circumstances, extreme positions, things working out not the way that you want it is in the center. This is why these teachings are so, I would call them vital, life-changing. This will be life-changing to you, because the truth is, only you know. I'm not saying I've caught everything, but if you pick up anything of this, then this applies to you. So find the words that are right for you. Use this, join the Facebook group, share with others, because that's how you learn, is to come back into the center. Respect yourself. Have your own integrity. Never lie to yourself. That self-talk, what you say, that goes through your mind. And if you're unsure what I say, wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning and listen to that self-talk. And when has that self-talk ever said to you at 3 a.m. in the morning, aren't you doing well? Aren't you good? Oh, tomorrow's going to be a great day. I think you're losing weight. Don't you look great? It never does that, does it? It criticizes, it finds fault, it says you should have done better, you're not good enough, you can't cope, you're unlovable, people don't like you, you're being rejected. Stop it. It's just your mind. That's the little child playing up. Got to give it a hug and say, come on now, we're sensitive. We can sensitively work our way through this. This is our superpower. We don't have to go to the extremes of criticizing and beating ourselves up or thinking we're some porcelain doll that's going to break if somebody looks at us wrongly or raises their voice. This is not reality. You have everything you need. You've always had everything you need. All I want to encourage you to do is to use it authentically with sensitivity.
Great. So I think as well, David, that we said obviously be mindful when you're in one or the other states. You know, if all of a sudden you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling fragile, or you're feeling prickly, or like you want to be hard-nosed, or you want to kind of attack someone for what they've said to you.
Or attack yourself.
Or attack yourself. You're doing the CCJing. So if you obviously think about the thoughts and self-talk that's going on, so you can spot when you're in those two zones. But even before that, what we teach, and with the golden thread process, that we're just working on the course to teach you this now, the golden thread process. But the beginning of the golden thread process is, if you've got the red light feelings,
you're in the extreme.
You're in the extreme. Yep. So you don't even have to know the details so much of what's going on behind the scenes to know that you're out of balance. Because if you've got red light feelings, you know you're in one of the extremes. If you have green light feelings, so contentment, inner peace, happiness, joy, feeling a sense of love and compassion, that's Wu Wei. That's the middle zone.
And that's why I prefer to call them red light feelings. It's like a warning. If you're getting a red light feeling, whatever you want to call it, anxiety, temper, depression, you're in the extreme. Bring yourself into the center. And we're here to help you. The Facebook community is here to help you. We can all work together. We're all in this together. We're all human beings. You are not on your own. We all have this. It's learning how to deal with it.
Yeah, great, David. So we spent a lot of time on the first superpower, which is emotional sensitivity. So what's the second one then?
Creative imagination. I noticed all my clients have got a fantastic creative imagination. And by this I mean that when it swings out of balance, they can create problems where problems don't exist. They are the greatest at telling me what could happen, what might happen. This might happen, that might happen, this will happen. I call it Martians landing. Yeah. You know, they can tell me everything we talk about. If I offer a solution, they go, well, that's not going to work, is it? And then they tell me why it's not going to work. Well, he's not going to like that. They're not going to like this. And they create another problem on top of a problem on top of a problem. Their creative imagination goes absolutely wild. And they get caught in the extreme of creating problems on top of problems on top of problems until they just say, swing to the other way and say, well, there's no way out of this then, is there?
No hope.
No hope, no way, no, might as well give up.
They can't see any creative solutions to a problem.
No solution, no way, I'm stuck. I might as well put the duvets over my head and call it a day. I might as well just go to bed. I might as well just end it all because I've swung to the other extreme. I'm sorry, I've got a bit of a croaky throat. So they swing from the one extreme where they're creating more issues, everything. Have you ever met this person? When you give them a solution, they give you 10 reasons why they can't do the solution?
Negative Betty.
Negative Betty, yeah.
Negative Betty.
Negative Betty. Do you do this? When people offer you a solution, do you could say, oh yeah, well then let me find another way why I can't accept that? And then they swing on the opposite side, and then they go, well, that's me. There's no hope. I might as well give up. I might as well finish it now. We might as well call it a day. I will never get out of this. I'm stuck in this. I'm going round and round in circles. So
for a lot of people who, again, before they even get to those, identifying those thought processes in the two extremes, again, we've got red light feelings happening at both ends of the spectrum. a lot of people would perhaps come to you first and say, I'm just an anxious person, or I'm really anxious, or I'm suffering from really strong panic attacks.
No, I'll tell you what they come to me and say. My life's a mess. Yeah. I don't know where I'm going. I've got no sense of purpose. I'm going round and round in circles, David. Everything I try always goes wrong. I don't know. I'm listening to everybody. Everybody tells me the wrong thing to do. Yeah. I know.
And is that on the hopelessness?
That's the hopelessness.
I can't see a creative way forward for myself. I've got no vision for myself.
I'm not going to take
I can't see a way out of this situation.
I'm not going to take responsibility. Okay. And when you offer them something, then they give you the other extreme. Well, that won't work.
Yeah.
Well, why won't it work? And then they think of some other, well, that's not going to work. Well, they're not going to like that. Well, my boss isn't going to like that. My partner's not going to like that. My friends aren't going to like that. It's going to mean I'm going to lose all my friends, doesn't it, if I change that? This is what I heard just last week. Well, if I start being truthful to my friends, I won't have any friends. And I said, you've got no friends now. If you can't be truthful to your friends, you've got no friends. And that's what they do. They create another barrier, another blockage, and they swing from one to the other.
And I think people who are always worrying about the future, imagining problem upon problem upon problem, and again, this is fantastic creative imagination because they create these scenarios so vividly in their mind. It's almost like they're as vivid as reality, and then they convince themselves it's reality. And you can see how, I mean, we've done a video on this, kind of worrying about the future, lack of trust in the future, learning to bring yourself back into the wu wei. I'll put a link to that. But you can see how both of those extremes, again, waste so much energy, sap you of your potential.
Well, we call it utopian or Disney World.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice if the world there was a way I would like it? Everybody smiled. There's no confrontation. Nobody argues. Everybody does what I would like them to do. Everybody agrees with me. I set out the rule books. I've got a big rule book. Everybody agrees with my rules because my rules are fair, aren't they? And this is the other extreme. You see, this is the wishful thinking, the fairy godmother, the things we talk about in all our videos. This is the creative imagination gone out of balance, gone wild. You've got no control about it.
The reason why we do that is not the reason why we create this utopia and kind of expect and want the world and everyone around us to be like that is not for malicious reasons. No. It's basically because we are fearful, red light feeling. We've got a very strong alarm bell red light feelings because we're believing all the terror stories and the scenarios that we are creating in our imagination. So we're trying to manipulate the outside world and other people just to get rid of the red light feelings, but actually we're creating those for ourselves. It's not reality.
And this is what we keep on saying on all of our videos. The greatest teaching I can give you is you are the creator of your emotions. You are not the victim. And if you really truly believe that, both the mature you listening to this and your part of your mind that we call the inner child, every red light feeling that you experience, every feeling, every emotion, you are creating it as a result of external events, but you are creating the emotion and you can change that emotion. And when you are hooked into these illusions, they become, as Alex says, extremely powerful, and you're so used to them that they almost become real. You're living in this fairy story where everything works out wrong and nothing works out right. And you can create a problem on top of a problem on top of a problem, and you see no solution. Then you swing on to the other side.
And those are the first gears of the Ferrari we're talking about. So bringing that energy of creativity
and imagination
and creative imagination into the wu wei balance through being mindful of the red light feelings, mindful of the thoughts and the beliefs that are going on, all the golden thread process stuff we teach. When we bring creative imagination to wu wei balance, what happens?
This means that any issue, any event, any problem in your life, you can create and imagine a solution to that problem.
Wow.
Anything.
Yeah, wow, okay.
You can find a way around it. And here's now we second one in. If you've got the two extremes, either on sensitivity, we spent a lot of time on this, or on the next one we're going to do is in a minute. If you recognize any of the extremes or both of the extremes, you have to have the middle. Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to create a solution to any situation that you encounter. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to do it. If you can imagine monsters landing from Mars, you can find a solution to your problem, whether that's in your own life, whether that's in your emotional life, whether that's in your family, whether that's in your career, whether that's making money, whether that's whatever it is. You can creatively imagine a solution to your problem. I'll give you this teaching a couple of times. When I'm doing this teaching, I love what a master said to me. One of my favorite teachers in China. He said, imagine this river. You know, I'm always talking about the river coming down the mountain, flowing down the mountain, clear and pure. And it hits a big boulder in the way. The stream or the river doesn't go, oh, well, that's me scuppered. I can't move. Here. Oh, well, look at this. Yeah. Who put that boulder there? It's stopped my flow. I might as well give up. It finds a way around it. And that's what we have to do in life. Every boulder that comes in your life is an opportunity for you to create a solution, an authentic solution, a true solution, using your sensitivity, using all of your superpowers, everything. And why do I know that you can do this? Why am I absolutely sure without a shadow of a doubt that you can do this? Because you've always done it. Look at all the problems in your life, right from childhood. You've always found a solution. And what we're trying to do is to make that solution more easy in your flow, effortless, rather than struggling with it for years and years and years. And as Alex says, using all your energy, going round in circles, blaming other people, not taking responsibility. You will have to do it in the end. Why don't you do it with ease? Why don't you use the powers that you already have in the correct, balanced Wu way? Find your flow. Sit down, work out a solution, use your intuition, your imagination, your creativity. Aren't you a really creative person? Is that the truth? Because I believe you are. You can create a solution to any situation. Think about how creative you are in the way you dress, in the way you live, in how you live your life. Use that creativity for yourself. Create different scenarios that work for you. This is being in your Wu way. This is your superpower. This is your Ferrari on overdrive, not on first or reverse gear.
I think as well, David, in terms of this idea of scenarios, we can be very creative thinking of all the worst case scenarios. So why can't we be creative in thinking of some counterbalance positive scenarios or positive outcomes, or even just neutral outcomes? We spend so much time thinking about all the possible negative outcomes, but we never spend any time in the same creative way thinking about, well, what are the other outcomes here? You know, what are positive outcomes, neutral outcomes? And it's kind of broadening the beam instead of just sticking in that rigid.
And the answer is the same answer to sensitivity, because this is the default. Mm-hmm. This is what you're used to. Mm-hmm. Stop it. Yeah. You've got to come back and use everything, because if you're so used to creating problems, situations, bad scenarios, then you equally can create good creative scenarios. It's nothing you have to learn. You don't have to go to night school. You've already got this skill. You're just not using it in the correct way. And if I can bring you and tell you, stop it now, use your skill in the correct way, you can do this. You will not get it right. You are not perfect, but you are unique. This is your skill. Learn how to do it. You don't have to tell anybody else. Learn for yourself. Learn when you get it wrong. Get it right and be creative. Use your imagination in a positive way.
And just kind of chuckle into myself a little bit, because I know in my past career, I was a designer, a planner designer, and my job was to spot problems in designs for new housing developments and things like that. And I was very, very, very good at spotting all the problems, all the kind of negative things wrong with the design. And that was actually my job to do that. But then I changed jobs and I had to work for the person who was doing the designs to try and sell them, to sell all the positives. And because I got so used to nitpicking the negatives, I actually found it very hard at first to sell and identify all the great positives of things. And I think it's this habit we get into of, again, motivated by the inner child red light fear of everything's going to be a problem and a disaster and I'm not going to be able to cope. All the 3 lies we talk about, it's all going to go wrong. So the inner child almost wants to future-proof everything, spot all the potential problems, and then work really, really hard to avoid them.
Yep.
Instead of broadening the beam out, seeing all the possible outcomes.
Yep.
And being more in Wu Wei.
Yeah, it's much easier to find fault than be creative.
Yeah.
But if you can create problems, you can create solutions. Same thing. And remember, a habit is just a choice set on default. I want to bring that choice to your conscious mind so you know you're making a choice. Let me give you one more. Not making a choice is making a choice. Sitting on the fence is a choice. Yeah. And the fence is uncomfortable. Stop sitting on the fence. Make a choice. Be happy to get things wrong, because when you get things wrong, you're learning and you won't get them wrong again, will you? You're not stupid. Once you got it wrong, you'll learn how not to do it. You won't do it again. So this is your opportunity to change right now. Mm-hmm.
And for the highly sensitive person who has this beautiful quality of creativity, not only does it mean that we can creatively approach any challenging situation and deal with it authentically, creatively in our flow, but it also means we're generally quite creative people in terms of we're very artistic, whether it's in writing, in poetry, in painting, in making stuff, in our hobbies, and if we can balance that and harness that creativity, that will produce so much joy and so many green light feelings in our life and benefit other people when we share our creative talents with them.
And that can be anything. Yeah. Use art, craft work, anything
music,
at all. Music, yeah. anything, writing. You have a creativity, use it. That's all. It doesn't matter if anybody else likes it. But you'll like it, yeah. And your inner child will like it. Remember, you are the inner child. So when you start doing things, the inner child will come along and it will take part in that creativity.
And am I right in thinking, David, that you often recommend that if someone it's almost like this creative energy is so wonderful and powerful that we have, but we have to use it correctly. So you can't just put a lid on it and hide it. If you're not channeling your creative energy positively through, creative thinking, problem solving, doing creative hobbies or tasks, or creating films, music, writing, art, whatever it is, if you're not channeling it in positively in Wu Wei.
And it can be cooking or anything.
Cooking, gardening.
Needlework.
That energy is more likely to swing out of balance.
It will swing out of balance.
Okay, so that's why almost like as a healthy, mindful Wu Wei wisdom habit every day, if you're a highly sensitive person, you need to be thinking, what is it that gives me creative joy? What can I eke out half an hour of time to do creatively today? Either first thing in the morning, lunchtime, or in the evening, when you have a little bit of time, whether it's journaling, whatever.
For you.
That will then, it's almost like you're using that energy, you're transforming that energy in a really positive way, rather than letting it come out in one of the two extremes we've talked about.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
Exactly.
So,
number 3.
Superpower, highly sensitive person, superpower number 3.
And this is the one I hit the most. I'm not going to talk about the middle. I'm going to talk about the extreme that I hit with nearly all of my clients. Stubbornness. My goodness, my clients, they dig the heels in at any opportunity. They will not budge. Even if you spend time with them and discuss with them, and they will go, and here's where you hear what I call beat the butt. They'll say something like, I know what you're saying, David. I absolutely agree with you. You're absolutely right. But they will not move. They are stuck in the extreme of this familiarity. This is what I'm used to. I know it doesn't work, but I know how it doesn't work. I'm not going to risk moving. I keep on going around and around and around. I'm just smiling because my last client yesterday was a video call to San Francisco. And when we do a video call, we tape it and so the client can listen to our conversation. And he said, I've got to tell, this is what he said first thing, David, I listened to the last video. My God, I'm stubborn. I said, exactly. And he says, you're very patient. And I said, I'll tell you why I'm patient. It's because I see a little child inside of there. And when you're stubborn and you're locked in, it's like you're keeping that child of yours in a prison. You won't budge. You're absolutely stuck. And it doesn't matter how many times we talk. You can almost see with a lot of my clients there, I call it their hackles come up and they go tense and they're running out of arguments. They can't, but they're not going to budge. They're not going to budge. They don't want to. And this is what I hear. Well, I'm going to lose face. Well, then you think, it was just 2 days ago. Well, if I give in, David, it's like I've wasted 20 years of my life. And I said, well, do you want to waste another 20 years of your life? You've got to move away from this stubborn rigidity.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. If you're doing something wrong, this is when people laugh at me and I say, stop it. If you're digging a hole, stop digging the hole. Don't carry on digging the hole because you've been digging it for 20 years and you don't know where you're going to. And so you've got to move out of this stubbornness, because if you bring this pendulum into the center, into Wu Wei, this is the greatest skill, because this is determination. If you're stubborn, you are really a highly determined person. Well done. This is a great quality, to be determined. It means that when you're focused, when your sensitivity is aligned, when your creativity is aligned, you can then align your determination. What better qualities would you want for your child than sensitivity, creativity, and determination? What great qualities. Do not be stuck in this stubborn determination, because you know what the extreme is? The extreme is...
The other extreme.
The other extreme to determination? Give up.
Right.
Well, I might as well give up. It's not worth it. I can't cope. Have you said this to yourself? I can't cope. It's all too much for me to do.
It's not worth the effort.
It's not worth the effort.
Yeah.
I might as well not start. Oh my God, how many times do I... It's not even worth starting, David, because I know I'll fail. This is crazy. This is swinging from one to the other, where you're missing out on your greatest superpower, determination. Remember, you can't have one of those extremes. If you keep on saying you can't cope, you're actually a very determined person, and you're not harnessing yourself to that natural, authentic, unique determination that you already got. No one can give it to you. No one can take it away from you, because you've already got it. It's yours. It's your gift. It's your superpower. It's your absolutely defined sense. This is why this is a spiritual teaching. This is who you are as a person. All I'm encouraging you to do is to keep into balance. Please be sensitive, be creative, be determined. That's a great power. Don't swing out because it's familiar and you're used to it, and you don't want to change and you can't be bothered and it's your default. Be in what you really are.
And I think, David, overall, we really hope this video dispels the myth, as we've kind of alluded to, that being a highly sensitive person is a problem. Some people even describe it as a handicap. You know, it's a weakness. It is absolutely not. And we hope you can now understand how these 3 superpower qualities, if handled correctly, are just, imagine what you can achieve with your life. But if they're not handled correctly, if you don't kind of put in that mindful time and attention, then it is hard work. It's tiring. It's a problem. So this is why it's so important to recognize that if you've got any of those extremes, it's not like you don't even have to learn anything new, do you?
This is what I don't understand.
You don't have to learn how to be emotionally sensitive. You don't have to learn how to have a fantastic creative imagination. You don't have to learn how to be determined, because that's the person you already are. We're just saying drive that Ferrari as best as you can.
It's like, this is how I see it when I'm working with some of my clients. It's like somebody just phoned you up and told you you've won the lottery. You've won $10 million, £10 million is on the lottery. And come down to the capital, come down to London or New York to pick up your check, and you say, can't be bothered. It's too much effort. You mean I've got to get on the train and go down to London?
I'd rather stay as I am.
I'd rather stay as I am without the $10 million. You've got it already. You've got these powers. Why don't you use them? Just because you don't want to go through the slight challenge of changing and coming back and using them. They're there already for you. You have won the lottery. You are a winner. These are your powers. Just use them. And don't worry about if you don't get them right. Don't tell anybody you're going to try it. Just change it for yourself over the next few weeks. Write into us and tell us how it's going. We'll coach you. We'll tell you other ideas, other creativity. If you say, I'm a bit stuck on this, or I'm a bit stuck on that. You know, if you're in the community, if you're in the Facebook community, write in. You'll get like loads of people saying, oh, I did that, or I tried this, or I did that. And, you've got these. This is what I don't understand. You've got these already. You are already awesome, unique. Do you realize there is no one in the whole universe like you? No one. No one. You are that unique. You are made of cosmic stardust. What more do you want? What is it you're looking for? Just be who you are. You're not perfect. Don't judge anybody. Don't judge yourself. Just live your life and be the best that you can be. I can't say more than that. And that will be amazing. You will amaze yourself what you can achieve using sensitivity, determination, and creativity. Those 3 superpowers. You'll be amazed what you can achieve very quickly.
Brilliant. If you recognize any of the things we've talked about today, which I'm sure you have, please comment below and share your thoughts. Share your biggest takeaway from this video. What's the main thing you've learned? What's the first thing you're going to implement? For those of you who are wanting to take the next step, we've got lots of video resources to help you. So I will put in the video description below links to videos where we talk more about our therapy model, the golden thread process, more about inner child work and inner child reparenting, which is often required in this process of bringing the energy from the extremes into Wu Wei. So we've got lots of free videos there for you. If you'd enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We produce new videos every week. And if you're interested in working one-to-one on any of the subjects we've talked about today, David works every week with clients all over the world by video call, and he'd love to work with you. And I'll put a link in the description below to that as well. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye-bye.